Is this an isolated incident? Is this an indicator of a pattern of other things that have gone on?
Well, I think it's an indicator of a larger, set of circumstances that people have to deal with, and I think that's part of what Marc and what Lori are saying is that,
all right,
we often allow these people in power to ascribe a level of unusualness to this, right? This is something that doesn't usually happen. We can't believe this happened.
Right.
We're going to deal with it on a case-by-case basis, and by allowing us to talk about it like it's a special thing, we saw it with Rodney King, we saw it with Diallo, we saw it with Shawn Bell, we see it with the kid out of UCLA who was tasered in the library, although he wasn't putting up any type of physical resistance. 2 weeks ago, in fact. So, in fact, the same week as Shawn Bell, which is what made it so interesting, is all of these things going on. You see the woman in Atlanta whose house was raided. You see the young man who was 14 years old, who was at boot camp, who was murdered by the correctional officers.
Right,
There's a whole slew of examples and case studies that we could look at to see that this isn't an unusual circumstance at all. But every time it happens, we allow people to talk about it like it is. I think Marc's point is 100% right, and that is we must not only critique this and talk about it, but we must have a list of demands and a set of penalties if people don't meet our demands. That's the problem, is that we tell people to do stuff, they say, okay, sure, and then 6 months goes by, nothing happens, and we move on to the next controversy.
Right. Well, okay, so you've laid out a number of cases, so obviously this is not the only incident, although we did hear people talk about this as if it was an isolated case and it's being investigated as such. But in addition to just calling for the resignation of the commissioner, there's got to be some policies that could be changed, or there certainly seems like there should be policies that can be changed. Are there any things that come to mind?
Well, first off, I think what people have to do is to deal with this from a historical context. See, what makes this so predictable, and I'm talking about the NYPD, the New York City response to the Shawn Bell incident, is that we've had the same identical efforts before.
Right.
Most recently, it was Timothy Stansbury,
right,
who was shot and killed by a police officer on the top floor of his building. Him and some friends were going to the top floor of their building. The police officer came off of the roof, fired a shot, and killed Timothy Stansbury. The police commissioner's response at that time was to label that shooting unjustifiable, which gave a lot of people in the community so much hope.
Right.
Wow, it's a big deal. The commissioner said unjustifiable. It meant nothing. The mayor went to the funeral, said some kind words about the young man, Timothy Stansbury, patted the family on the back. So all these things have been done before. We've been hustled before.
Right.
What happened after that? The police officer wasn't indicted, criminally charged, federally charged, administratively charged by the police department. He then goes on to represent the union. So yes, there are a list of things that could be done. In this particular instance, in the Shawn Bell instance, there needs to be a full examination of the policy that allows police officers in an undercover capacity in this particular enforcement unit to consume alcohol. The police commissioner himself indicated in this Shawn Bell incident that one of the officers, he only spoke about one,
right,
but at least one of the officers had consumed what he said was 2 beers. He didn't speak about how he was able to determine it was just 2, but he spoke about 2 beers. There needs to be an analysis of that, because as we have this discussion, the same unit is still in operation, and they'll be out there tonight.
Right.
There also has to
with different personnel. I just want to
with different personnel.
Right, but the same mandate in effect.
Right, same mandate in effect. People have to be fired, and that doesn't stop anything else from going on. Ray Kelly could lose his job today. There'll still be an investigation by the DA's office. Chief Anthony Izzo, who heads that unit, has direct responsibility for those individuals in that unit. He could be gone today, and the ball could still keep on rolling. It doesn't preclude us from doing everything else that we need to do. There needs to be a special prosecutor, a permanent special prosecutor in these cases. And the reason is because we all know full well the police can't investigate themselves, and too often the local prosecutor's office is in cahoots with the police department. They have an incestuous relationship, and they actually depend on each other for each other's success. So they can't investigate each other, or themselves.
Right.
They have to be out of the picture as far as that is concerned. There has to be a recognition that the police department is not concerned about clearly identifying their officers to our community. We have police officers who don't wear identifiable marks, which is understandable, plainclothes officers. They don't bother to display their identification, their badges. They don't bother to have raid jackets on, which clearly indicate that they're police officers.
Sure.
They don't use vehicles that are equipped with emergency response indicators, lights, sirens, and those type of things. And they want us and our children to accept the fact that when they pull us over on an angle on the street at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're supposed to know they're the police.